Welcome to the lunation situation. We are talking about the full moon in Leo. Of course, that's why I look this crazy extravagant. Occurring February 12th of 2025. When we're talking Leo, we're talking big, we're talking bold, we're talking fun, we're talking extravagant, noticeable, ready to be in the spotlight. It's about leadership, creativity, sports, activity. It's about your inner child. It's about theater, expression, self-expression. It's about the show of everything, the glow. It is ruled by the sun, so it's time to take center stage. But this is a full moon, so what is that about? Well, of course, a full moon is always about a completion, something rounding up, something coming to an end, something coming to a light, because the full moon sheds light on things that previously wasn't known or wasn't ready to be discovered. So something is being revealed to us in this moonlight as well. Full moons are in opposition, so it's always an intense energy. It's always heightened emotions. This is where the term lunacy comes from. So the energy is crazy, and particularly in this lunation, because not only is there a natural opposition between the sun and the moon, as you can see in the chart, there is also a big red triangle pointing strongly to Uranus, who is direct, so in full power. It has been direct since a couple of weeks, at 23 degrees of Taurus. These are all three fixed signs. Fixed signs don't like to budge, don't like to change their course. They like to hold on to the known. But weirdly, Uranus is nothing like that at all, and will demand the unknown, will demand sudden flashes of change. So this is a time of many changes, quite a revolting, revolutionary air that this lunation promises. You know, we're on edge, and the energy is pretty wild during this lunation, because there are three fixed signs. I have to say that they are generally fixed signs, all about crises. So, you know, things have to go upside down, break down to come to a breakthrough. So we can expect some form of crises, and we can look to the Uranus placement for that. We can look to, because Uranus is in Taurus, an earth sign, unfortunately this can be a time of intense weather situations, perhaps you know, like volcano bursting or earthquake energy. The earth is very active, it seems, around this time, so you want to be careful if you live in areas that may be affected in this case. Just don't be surprised if that is so. But you know, Uranus is that surprising energy, so we may not know from which side this comes, but there is a great intensity to this lunation. Also, the crises can come through earthly related upheaval, because Uranus is in Taurus, but it can also come through financial changes, because that is what Taurus rules. So this can be a financial shakeup to our economies. Taurus also rules basic survival, so food, shelter, security, safety. So one may ask if these things are unfortunately also under a lot of pressure. So will we have access to our basic needs like food, like water, like electricity, because that's what Uranus also rules. So expect the unexpected around this lunation, but think about power cuts, think about internet cuts, think about difficulty accessing your basic needs. And therefore, if you're a keen prepper like I am, always be ready for the, unexpected. This is where astrology comes in, because when you can expect the unexpected, then maybe you can do your best to do what is within your means. If this is such an intense time, like the chart says, I would not go out to risky areas or make risky decisions. Okay? So if there are issues to the financial system, do you have cash on hand? For instance, in Europe, where I am, they have actually issued a lot of warnings, which is very un-European. They tend to be very level-headed and, not crises prone generally, although they have been going through 2 world wars. But they have issued a warning that, if, like big banks and governments, saying that one should have cash on hand. So there you have it, one message to another. I'm just sharing. So I think, if you followed some economists around the world, then this is no surprise that most countries are in financial difficulty. Most of our systems are under a lot of pressure because, most people and most governments are spending more than they actually have. And so, there are a lot of economical issues, budget issues, financial bankruptcies that, are also kind of ready to surface. And then there is also the whole digitalization that's, ready to make its move. So, there's a lot of pressure on our economic systems because of this. So from one hand, coming from economical problems, and from another hand, coming from a new digitalized age that is pressuring digitalized currency and, everything going online and AI and all that. So there is always, these recent times, a lot of pressure on economy. But, in this lunation, it says that there is a heightened intensity, like the kettle is boiling and there's something gonna pop off. That's the kind of energy this chart shows. And so, this is unfortunately something else we might see or expect. So do what you can. I don't want to scare anybody. This is not about panic, but we're not dumb people. We're intelligent, and we can think about, philosophize, like, well, what would happen if there would be an issue financially or electronically? How are we then to get on? Because there are a lot of warning signs around us, right? And, even though on one hand it could be manipulative and it could be like, fear tactics and all that. On the other hand, there is a lot of solar activity, and it's happened before that electric, technology is shut down because of solar energy that interrupts our, technologies. So the power lines could go offline, and that would have a lot of consequences in our modern world that is almost solely based on electronics and the internet, really, right? So I know for a lot of people it might be scary to think about that, like what would happen if that is so. But I don't think it's, unfortunately, not that unrealistic to think about it, to take it into consideration at least, because maybe there are very minor things that you can do to help your survival, okay? Because that is Taurian. But Taurus is also about your value systems clearly changing. You're really asking yourself what is important, what feels good with a moon in Leo. It has to feel good, it has to feel joyful. Is your heart in it? Is it giving you joy? Is it making you connect with your inner child? This is also very creative energy, both Taurus and Leo. So, I think it's also helping us to think outside of the box, not your usual way of doing things. And it's really challenging our intelligence to think about several options and new ways of doing things. It is a very survival, very preparatory energy, okay? So do what you want with it. Now, from an evolutionary astrology perspective, a T-square is always, a lot of pressure moving into the apex, which is Uranus and Taurus. But when you move to the opposite side of the apex, we find Scorpio. So the release of this intense pressure between the moon in Leo, Uranus in Taurus, and the sun in Aquarius. Actually, the sun is together with Mercury and also Ceres, a dwarf planet. It means that, we can lighten that energy up with the Scorpio energy. What is that? Very deep psychological views, having a bullshit filter on, seeing through lies, seeing deeply through what's the cause, the core issue. What are we being played at? Are there manipulative games? Is there abuse? And also, it's just about deep transformation, just allowing things to leave, to die off, because we're in time of great changes. And to have some kind of a rebirth energy, we need to let go of a lot of baggage. Now, coincidentally, that is also what a full moon is about: letting go, letting the end, allowing the end to be, accepting what no longer can come with you because it's done, it's completed, and hopefully you got the lesson. Interestingly, right there opposite, in Scorpio, we also have the asteroid Juno, which is about marriage and long partnership and loyalty to your partner. But there's also the asteroid Medusa, and Medusa is a very intense story about, possibly sexual assault, rape, and being victimized by a fellow, from the same sex, meaning a woman to a woman, being ostracized, being victimized, victim blaming, really. So it's a very intense mythology, right? That Medusa story. I do have a whole video about it. I will link that below. It's super interesting to go in depth because a lot comes to the Medusa story. I do think it's interesting because we're going to see Uranus again at the Algol degree, 26 degrees of Taurus, soon, in the coming 1, 2, 3 months. So we're definitely going to see the Medusa story strongly again. And mostly she's known to have a head full of snakes. Her hair turns into snakes because she's, well, basically bullied, and a spell is put upon her and she's killed for it. So, but then the story leads to an intense love story. So it's the ultimate scorpionic story where, your life, the process that you go through completely changes you from the core. And it's like a whole different life, a whole different story that you end up in. And it's unfortunately usually through dark experiences, through uncomfortable crises that really push you to those massive changes. You know, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, so there's no surprise there. It's very, very intense. So the fact that the release point is in Scorpio, that's not easy either. It's just that we have to change. We have to allow the changes to be, and these changes can be very dramatic, as Leo always is. In the chart, we also see that Mercury is very close to the Sun, and that means that we have been in a cazimi where the Sun and Mercury meet together in the sky. It happens a couple of times a year, and that was February 9th, when they met at 21 degrees of Aquarius. So Mercury got all this information, deep intelligence. You know, our mind on February 9th is just on fire, and just a lot of cosmic knowledge, quantum understanding, just our minds being blown open to a lot of new insights, a lot of awakening to different views, and um, what's very high on our mind is that we want to be free, that we want to be liberated, and that things have to dramatically change, and that we're ready for those changes. And already February 9th, actually, we see the Sun already squaring, or actually this cazimi with Mercury, so Sun Mercury squaring Uranus already February 9th. So it's not just a full moon, and also the energy with a full moon usually comes earlier, so that's also no surprise. So it means that moving towards this full moon, this lunation, so meaning before February 12th, we're already feeling the intensity, and we're gonna see the themes of this full moon bubble up. So another important date is February 9th, and then before February 12th, we're just gonna feel very fired up, because Uranus is also the electricity in our body, our neurons firing off, flashing off. And so there's a, mental upgrade here tremendously, like an awakening, awareness, seeing things differently. And that can be very challenging on our bodies in Taurus. It means that we're very neurotic around this time, very potentially also anxious, just a lot of electricity in our bodies. So if you can, ground yourself on earth, or grounding mats, or whatever you do to calm your body down, because this can also disrupt our sleeping patterns and just feeling very restless. So moving towards the middle of February, this is definitely what we're all going to feel. And so know that it's not a personal energy just for you, but that we're all dealing with this. Interestingly, in the middle of the Sun and Mercury during this lunation, we have Ceres wedged right in the middle. Ceres is a dwarf planet. She is kind of our earth mother goddess. She rules over fertility, over harvest, over agriculture, therefore, so about our food, our grains, nutrition, but it's also about nourishment. So how you feel nourished yourself, how you can nourish other ones. It's a very mothering kind of energy. So the fact that it's in between the Sun and Mercury, it means that it's a key player. Those themes are key players in this lunation. Because Ceres is in Aquarius and in between those two, it means that our mind, or our intelligence, is very focused on food, nutrition, nourishment. Unfortunately, together with a square to Uranus, it makes me think that there is a difficulty with food, with food supply chain, you know, some issues with being able to find food. Is there an issue with that, you know? Or is it also linked to not being able to pay for it for some reason? Ceres in Aquarius is, you know, a winter month in the northern hemisphere. So Ceres is unhappy in the winter months because she lost her daughter to the underworld. So she's at grief. There's no fertility in nature. Um, you know, so she's not very, the energy is not comfortable already. And it's not fruitful. It's not fertile. In a way, she even plays a part in that February 9th Kazemi. So we might already around February 9th feel into, you know, some ideas or insights about either how important, you know, nourishment is, taking care of your body, taking care of, you know, some nutrition, the certain foods that are more important or valuable. And we're just coming into some understanding and insights. It's just a big topic on our mind. And because of the square, it just shows difficulties regarding those things. Moon in Leo is about taking charge, taking leadership over your situation, really being self-expressive, so very vocal about your ideas, your opinions, where you stand. I think this comes in handy because the other energies, Uranus and Aquarius, that Uranus rules, is all about freedom and standing up for yourself as well. So it's a time for bold expression, fearless, and whatever comes from the heart is the most correct. But there is a war between heart, mind, and body. We will feel very strongly into our heart because the moon is in Leo. And like I said, that will be the correct way. We will be driven to be heart-centered, heartfelt, but there will be a struggle feeling pulled apart between that truth and, you know, where your mind is preoccupied because maybe that's what's going on in the news or that's, you know, imposed in some kind of matter. And then the Uranus Taurus part is the physical needs that somehow are not being met because of how this chart looks. So the more unapologetic you are, the more you're willing to take the center stage to show your courage, your courageousness. That's what will be celebrated by the cosmos. You know, no matter how difficult this formation is, you know, the Leo energy is just so sparkling, is so nice that I don't think we should lose sight of that. It's really about, you know, no matter how dramatic your outside situation may look or the world may look, tap into your inner child, to what feels good, to your creativity, your creative expressions, maybe even to what felt good when you were a child. Go back to that. Make sure that your heart is on fire and that you feel joy and pleasure no matter what the situation is going to look. I feel that that's just going to be the right navigational tool during this crisis lunation. So the moon is also trining Chiron at 19 degrees of Aries, and so it means that around 19 degrees of Aries there is a potential, a potent momentum for healing, because it's trining the moon in Leo, and it's subsequently also kind of lightening up this lunation because it's also sextiling the moon and Mercury and even, you know, Ceres, I guess. So, you know, if you have anything around 19 degrees of Aries, this is a point. This is actually also a eclipse point from last year, I think. So the more that we step into our leadership, into our courage, into our fearlessness, into our drive, our passion, we will really heal ourselves so deeply that we will get through anything. This is about knowing who you are at a deep level and standing up for it. You know, the rest is like, oh well, it comes and goes. But you have to know who you are, what you stand for, what is important to you, and you have to willing to fight for that, okay? You have to willing to stand for that. You will be awarded by the universe. I guess one last thing, it's actually in the background, so it's not directly affecting the moon, but there is an important trine to mention, and that is from Saturn in Pisces to Mars in the sign of the Crab. And this actually also is an energy that starts strongly on February 9th during the Sun Mercury Cazimi. Remember, it seems that February 9th is strongly connected to February 12th, and it seems that that period before February 12th is just really, really significant for this lunation. So the trine from Saturn to the Crab starts February 9th. I mean, it's very intense February 9th because the moon is also on Mars. What does that mean? Mars is still retrograde, actually, like a couple of let's see, 12 days to go after this lunation. You know, we've almost completed 2.5 months of Mars in retrograde. I mean, it has been intense, and you know, it really affects our livelihood, it affects our health, it affects our goals, our motivation. So, you know, things have been laying low, and it's just about reorganizing your life, rescheduling your goals. You know, what's your plan? It has to be soul felt, it has to come from the heart, it has to be a spiritual goal. Now that it's trining Saturn, you have to be serious about what you want. You have to think about very long-term goals and the effects of your goals. You have to, you know, come up with emotional maturity, emotional intelligence around what you want and how you're going to do it. As well as it has to be spiritually backed. So, you know, ask for help, ask for spiritual support. Remember that that is a huge part of your mission as well, says this trine. So February 9th is probably when you'll really feel into this. And it's a background energy that's kind of important during this lunation. Other than that, a sort of small detail, but I do want to mention it. There is a sort of yod, you know, which is the finger of God pointing to the moon in Leo, which means there is a divine mission also going on. And it's the quincunx to Lilith in at the end of Capricorn. And of course, that is sextiling Neptune and the North Node in Pisces. And that is also quincunxing then the moon in Leo. So it seems that there is a divine mission to rebel, to say no, to put down some strong boundaries, to follow your divine path, but what feels so strongly for you, and to be very expressive about it. And again, this is the fearlessness, the courage you need to stand up for what you believe in, what feels right to you, and more so, who you are and what you don't want. So, you know, stand in that glory. I mean, Moon in Leo is something we want to, you know, we want to indulge in for sure. But there is a lot going on in this lunation, as you can tell. I hope this is a good energy where we can really push through, break through, and liberate ourselves, and to finally understand some really big concepts that just need change. And hopefully we can liberate ourselves from some constraints, such as financial. But yeah, collectively, it seems a bit of conflict-ridden energy. So do be careful and do what you can. If you want to prep like me, this is an excellent energy for that. So take care. Take care of your loved ones. Be kind to each other. Have compassion in your heart. And share the love, which Leo does so well. So don't forget that there is romance and that there is love, and that is the most valuable thing. So take care and have a good lunation, full moon in Leo. Bye.